Well, I'm still not back yet, but will you please pray with me? God, we ask that it is you that we hear and feel in these words and in this place. Amen. I used to watch this show where people would recount these horrible stories of near-death situations, where they somehow survived, but realistically they shouldn't be alive. I can recall a number of them, but one of them stands out, and it's about a small plane that crashed in the plains of Africa. One of the survivors had broken his legs in the crash, but he was still able to pull himself up against a nearby tree. And there he waited for another survivor of the crash to go and find help. Most of this episode was told from his perspective. You knew he already survived, but the how is what kept me watching. In every episode, I recall there being a moment where people lost hope. It was at this time when groups of people would turn on each other. People would differ or have differing opinions on the best course of action, and many times some of them would die at this moment of the episodes. Most of us have never been in that kind of survivalist life or death situation, but we've all had moments of great despair, or we've lost hope. Moments where we feel abandoned and alone. Moments where we curse the day of our birth and curse God. That's just part of being human. We become so caught up in us that we lose sight of the bigger picture, a kingdom of a united humanity with God. In our journey through Job, we've gotten to the point where Job has lost all hope. He laments in his pain and desires non-existence over continued perceived punishment. The first 13 chapters of Job are filled with the pain of Job's suffering. He goes from talking about God with his friends to praying to God and finally to saying he will take his case before God and demand God to show up and listen to him. It's at this point that we get to our readings today, which start in chapter 14, where Job says, "For there is hope for a tree. If it is cut down, that it will sprout again, and that its shoots will not cease. Though its roots grow old in the earth, and its stump dies in the ground, yet at the scent of water it will bud and put forth branches like a young plant. But mortals die, and are laid low. Humans expire, and where are they? If mortals die, will they live again? All the days of my service I would wait until my release should come. You would call, and I would answer you." In Job's complaining to God, he stumbles across hope. Hope isn't a word normally attached to the book of Job. It isn't a word that is normally attached to death, destruction, and suffering. And yet, in the midst of his pain, in the depths of his despair, Job finds hope. Catherine Schifferdecker writes, Job experiences moments of inexplicable hope, or moments at least of a hopeful longing, that God will hear him, God will answer. Such longing is based on Job's faith and his experience of God's care in the past. His most fundamental hope is this, that he will see God. The hope will be fulfilled at the end of the book. Job has hope that God sees what is happening. Job has hope that God hears his prayers. Job has hope that God will answer. And Job has hope that some restoration of life can take place through God. The hope that God can restore even the dead. As night was quickly approaching, this man who survived a plane crash knew that his only way to survive the cold night was to get a fire going. With his broken legs, he pulled himself around to get wood and things to burn. He got a decent pile together. Now, I don't remember how he got the fire started. It might have even been the plane burning some distance away, but he somehow got it going. In the middle of his searing pain, in trying to get the fire started, he began questioning whether it was all worth it. He questioned whether the other survivor was still alive. He began to lose hope. But he still kept working toward the fire. It was already dark by the time he got it going, but as soon as the flames began, he said his hope was restored. He knew the fire would protect him, give him sight, keep him warm. He knew that he could make it. He wasn't alone. He found comfort in the fire. Job says to God in chapter 19, "For I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, then in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see on my side, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. My heart faints within me." As Schifferdecker writes, "It is the witness of Job and the psalmists, indeed of the whole Bible, that God hears, God sees, and God will answer." Even in the depths of despair, Jesus knew, and we can know, that God is our God. He cried out, my God," because God is in relationship with us. We can speak to God, trusting that God hears us. Such faith leads to the capacity for hope, even when our outward circumstances may remain unchanged. "I know that my Redeemer lives," cries Job in his suffering. Knowing this Redeemer in Christ, we have all the more reason to hope. Do we love God for what we get out of the relationship? Or do we love God for who God is? Job is starting to shift his thinking. He was faithful because he was materially blessed, and he lost those material things. He's suffered and grieved. He's lamented. But now he's coming back to God with hope. Hope that he will be heard. Just because that man was able to build a fire didn't mean he was completely safe. In the warmth of the fire, he fell asleep, and he woke to the sound of hyenas closing in and the sight of the fire nearly out. His hope was gone. He didn't know what to do. So he grabbed some plane wreckage, and he banged it together and started screaming as loud as he could. Thankfully, that did scare off the hyenas. Job has found some comfort in the hope that God will listen to him. We all find some comfort in that hope. But next week, we're going to see how we can misunderstand that hope, how we can still try to control God, and how loving God for who God is means that we can't play God. We know, we sing and we say that our Redeemer lives. Let us hope that we can share this great news with others, and let it be our fire and light in our times of darkness.